Hello and welcome to another episode of For the Love of Sports. My name is Michael Rasile. This is a show where I get to talk about sports, I get to talk about business, I get to talk about everything in between. And today, my guest is Michael Katos. He's the GM of Playing the Field, as well as the host of the Fan Experience podcast. Michael, how you doing today, man?
Mike, thank you very much for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Pleasure is all mine. I promise you that. I'm excited to talk about the app a little bit. Obviously, you're a podcast host, so I'm sure we could talk about hours about why we love talking into a microphone so much. We'll keep it probably closer to 30, 40 minutes, but I'm sure we could. So, Mike, the
Yeah,
first question I have for everybody on the For the Love of Sports podcast is, why do you love sports so much?
just really just born into it. Where it really started was, going to Shea Stadium. I see you're rocking the Mets hoodie, and I am a fellow Mets fan. And, I lived about a mile away from Shea. So, you know, every other Sunday or, at least, a few games a year, we would just drive over to Shea and go to the games, and they were dirt cheap back then. So it was a little bit more feasible to go to the games at that point. So, my dad was always a big Mets fan. He brought us over there, and I didn't really it was kind of like going there with my dad. And then later on, I really developed the love, after being in the stands and seeing these games, in person, and seeing, some iconic moments, which will end up tying back into why I started the podcast that I did. But, it's just it's all a matter of those fan experiences and the things that you live through, live and in person. And it's just, there's nothing that compares to it. And then, I grew on to like football later on in life. I was actually a late bloomer on that. I was about 20, 21 years old before I even started watching football. But now, it's baseball and football for me. Unfortunately, I'm a Mets and Jets fan, so it's a little tough. But
sorry to hear that, man. I'm at least a Giants fan, so I have
yeah.
there was a couple winning years somewhere in there. Not as great recently, but there was a couple back then.
Yes, absolutely. And it just it's just that camaraderie that sports has, and just all the fun things that revolve around sports, and that's really all it's about for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's, as you were saying, some of those dramatic moments that you got to see in person, so many people watching them on TV. It's a real life reality TV show, right? Like we really do not know what's going to happen. We don't know what that next pitch is going to bring. We don't know what that next play is going to bring, and the opportunities that come with it are, am I going to be happy or sad for the next week, right? Like that's kind of the funniest part. Fan is short for fanatic. I let my emotions ride. Not so much anymore because my expectations are just so low for the Mets and the Giants, but it's just one of those things where you kind of just let it go. You see what happens. And I got to ask, because you are a Mets fan, before we get into the rest of the show, like, how have you been trying to spend Steve Cohen's money for the last couple months? Have you written any big checks recently? Because I know most Mets fans, including myself, we've been shopping with someone else's money. It's been a lot of fun knowing that, hey, maybe our owners, want to try moving forward. That'd be kind of cool, right?
Yeah, well, I would love for Steve Cohen to bring Playing the Field on board with the Mets. So if I'm gonna have one thing that I want him to spend his money on, that'd be it.
Uncle Steve, if you're out there listening, please help us poor Mets fans out. Help us poor Mets fans out. So yeah, let's talk about Playing the Field a little bit. So it's an application. It's kind of a dating and friendship app through sports, which I think is really cool. And I like the way that you're kind of taking it. So, talk to me a little bit. As you said before, with some of those dramatic moments, we'll tie it back in. Where did the idea for Playing the Field come from? And, why did you think this was something that, hey, I can put some blood, sweat, tears, and a couple bucks behind it and think it'll become more successful?
Yeah, great question. So, I mean, the original concept came to me I would say about 5 years ago. I was on online dating apps, and, I used, the fair share of the usual apps. And I just felt like there was, I don't know. It wasn't streamlined for finding somebody, because I'm a huge sports fan, and as if you either know sports or you don't know sports, and if that person that you're with, doesn't know sports, like, there's a little bit of a disconnect. Not saying you cannot
Mhm.
have romantic relationship with somebody that doesn't like sports and you're a sports fan, but there's always going to be that thing that is part of your core that they will never understand. So, if I had a preference, it would be to
Mhm.
be with a sports fan. And when I was on these online dating apps, you would either be, swiping or clicking to the next one to see if there's somebody that's wearing a jersey in one of their profile pictures, or has some kind of mention in their bio saying, "Oh, I'm a sports fan. Oh, I'm a Yankee fan. Oh, I'm a Mets fan." But there's only limited capability to put in your bio, so you're not going to put every little thing about you. And I thought that there would be a better way to showcase that if we had, an app that front and center showcase that you're a
Mhm.
sports fan, and then you could add all your other, personality traits along with it. Because in my opinion, my personal opinion is that I don't like putting sports in an interest section like I would that I like to cook or that I like R&B music, because being a sports fan is not an interest, it's a lifestyle.
Mhm.
And, I think it sells it short when you have to say, okay, keyword sports, that's just, it's not the same. And I know a lot of other sports fans feel the same way. So I decided to dabble into trying to create my own. And I was dabbling into learning how to code at that time. I was brainstorming it real quick. I thought of the name in about 10 seconds. Sorry, it wasn't taken. And I'm like, okay, perfect. And then a month later, I met my wife on another dating app.
Perfect. Well,
Uh,
you could have
so
left that part of the story out, honestly. It's really not that big a deal, but
yeah,
no, I get it. I get it.
but
Appreciate the
no,
honesty.
it is, because that's why, it took me 4 years to actually act on it.
Okay. Oh,
Um,
I like that. There you go.
because it was, I came up with the concept 5 years ago, and I met her, and that problem didn't need a solution for myself, at least, in the immediate. And after marriage, after a baby, and things calmed down a little bit, we decided together, like, let's just do it. And so she's been helping me along the way, helping budgeting, and
Mhm.
really pushing to get this make this dream a reality. So last year I went out, I trademarked the name. That ended up officializing January of this year. I was going out, I was trying to find investments, and trying to find help on the development aspect of it. Because me, as just a solo coder, it was proven to be difficult with a day job, 2 kids, a wife. It wasn't all that easy. And then I got furloughed from my day job during the quarantine, and I'm like, I can either binge watch Netflix all
Mhm.
day, or I can, pretty much put destiny in my own hands and try and do whatever I can to make this dream a reality. And that's what I did, sat there on the computer for 10, 12, sometimes 14, 15 hours a day, just trying to create this app. And I created it. I mean, I got a beta out there, an MVP beta. It's only on the web app right now. We're still working on the mobile versions, but it is out there for people to use. It's at playthefielddating.com. People can use it. We're trying to get those mobile apps and also a nice little aesthetic update and a couple of bug fixes out there sometime this football season. And we're working hard on pushing that out.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I think it is. It's pretty. I appreciate that you took advantage of the quarantine a little bit, right? As you said, so many people could just sit on the couch and watch Netflix and just kind of like, woe
That's the
is me,
easy
I'm
way
going.
out. That's
It
the
is a
easy
very
way
easy. And in certain situations, I mean, one day of that, maybe a couple days of that, especially in the beginning, is
Yeah.
understandable. It's a very weird time. I can't tell you how you deal with your stuff, but I appreciate that you said, you know what, like this is, hey, it sucks, but hopefully you were getting that unemployment check that was coming in. That I know. I mean, I got the opportunity to get that as well, so that helped a lot. And you were able to then take that and really take that time that you would not have had otherwise and really put it into it. And it sounds like you were capable of doing that. And one thing I want to touch upon from what you said before, sports is not an interest. Like I plan my weekends and my days around what game is on that night. I make sure that I will be somewhere in front of a television, or I have the radio app that allows me to listen to a specific game depending on where I am. Baseball playoffs. Baseball is my favorite sport. Playoffs are on right now. The only game on tonight is the Yankees Rays. Sure as hell, I'm going to be paying attention to the Yankees Rays game most of the night just to see what happens. So it's one of those things
Got
where
Lakers Heat tonight too.
that series is over, though. I don't care about that.
Yeah, the
That's
Lakers
over.
are.
Like,
Lakers
whatever.
are
Like,
favored by 7. I
I
don't
love
think.
LeBron. I want LeBron to win more than the next guy. I can guarantee it. But I don't need to watch that game. I can kind of basketball. You could just watch the fourth quarter anyway, so it's really
I
not that
know
big.
it's the last 5 minutes. That's what I always say.
Yeah,
You watch the last 5 minutes and you watch the whole game.
you watch the whole game exactly.
Yeah.
But no, exactly. So I'm going to be paying attention to certain stuff, but I will be making sure that my night and my days are surrounded by that. College football Saturdays. Big Ten's coming back. I mean, I might be going to the beach, but you're sure as hell I'm going to be paying attention to the game. All the good games aren't until later at night anyway. Obviously, all day Sunday, that's all I do is watch football. So it's funny how you say you can't really, like, sports isn't an interest. It's literally my life. It's the only thing I care about outside of my wife and some of my friends, but it's really all we got. And so I guess, with this opportunity of quarantine that you've gotten, where you've been able to really code more, put more time, effort, energy into it, hopefully start finding some investors, or at least getting down that road. What Why do you think this is the type of app? Why do you think this is the type of dating service that will succeed in a market that is now flooded with pretty much any type of dating service that you can think of? They all exist at this point.
Yeah, so that's a great question, and let me re-clarify what playing the field is. So yes, the concept started as an online dating app for sports fans, but through talking to people, talking to the market, there was a lot of people that were in romantic relationships with people that didn't like sports, but they're not going to leave that person. They're still in love with that person, but there was still that little disconnect where they still wanted camaraderie in platonic camaraderie. And I know that was a big thing for me as well. I play even a few years back before the dating app, I play pickup softball every Sunday morning. And we had this group of guys, and then a couple of guys were just moving away or whatnot, and we needed to recruit new people. So I went online and tried to figure out is there a way to go out there and recruit some people. And I ended up making like a meetup for it, but meetup is not that's more for professional. And I did get a couple of people out of it, but the fact of the matter is, like, I've always said I want to join a recreational softball league, but I don't know 10 people that want to sign up. Everyone's got busy schedules. When you were a kid, you can go to your friend's house, say, hey, let's go play basketball. Can't do that now. People got responsibilities, but there are people out there that want that same thing. They want to schedule that Saturday morning pickup basketball game. They want to have a midweek softball game for a recreational league. But it's just a matter of finding those people. And that's what made playing the field evolve into less of a sports fan dating app, but more of a sports fan community. Whether it's to find those extra teammates or to find game buddies, somebody to go to a game with. I mean, me and you, we're Mets fans, but maybe my wife doesn't want to go. Maybe you want to go to a Met game, and we'll sit there and connect and text and be like, okay, let's go to a game. Or say I want to get season tickets, but none of my friends can financially afford it, or they don't have the flexibility in their schedules to even go to the games. But there's other people that do have that capability. And instead of being with a complete stranger, you get to know somebody on a deeper level, and you have that core. And let's just be real, sports is the world's best unifier. And whether you root for the same team or not, like, a Mets fan can get along with a Yankees fan, and even a Yankees fan can get along with a Red Sox fan, because at their core, you're still a fan of the game and the love of that game. You're gonna be at each other's necks when you guys are facing each other, but it also makes it fun too. And it I don't know, it's just that there's a level of respect that sports fans have for each other, whether they're on rival teams, rooting for rival teams or not, and so much more so than say the political climate.
Mm,
You're either right or you're left. And if you're right, and if you're a right and a left get in the same room together, somebody ends up storming out of that room, or cursing, or getting a
mhm.
little violent.
Yeah.
But if a Yankee fan and a Red Sox fan end up in the same room, they could still
Yeah.
talk. They could still talk amicably and get along, and talk about great memories. Well, even if it is the Red Sox saying, "Hey, we beat you when you guys were down. We were you were up 3-0, and we still came back." My podcast co-host, he's a Yankee fan, and I'm a Mets fan, and it works out tremendously.
Mhm.
We take a couple of jabs at each other, but at the same time, we both love the game of baseball. We both love sports in general, and that's what really makes it work.
Yeah, I would agree to everything you said except for people from Philadelphia. I will take them out of the equation there.
Uh,
Everybody else I'm totally fine with.
well, I guess if people throw batteries at Santa Claus, I guess
Yeah,
that might be
it's a good place. I have
time for a
never
run.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've been to New York City countless times, and I've seen people in Phillies hats there, and Eagles hats, and Red Sox hats, and Patriots hats, and nothing is ever said. I went to the Jersey Shore a couple summers ago wearing a Giants shirt, and I have
Mhm.
never been heckled more in my entire
Oh
life.
yeah.
And I was just like, "What's going on here? Like, you're terrible, awful people. Like, I just don't get it." So yeah, I would take everybody but Philadelphians out of that equation there. And I guess so with the evolution of the app, the website, the idea a little bit, do you think it might get a little confusing for people, like, kind of having it start as that, like, dating app to now more being like now there's kind of two sides of it, and I understand it's the community aspect, but how have you seen kind of the reaction from the audience going from, "Hey, this is, a dating app," to now like, "Hey, like, it is a dating app still. You can find somebody that you can, hopefully fall in love with and spend some time with moving forward. But also, if you are just looking for that pickup softball, player, or a person to kind of fill in, has that gotten confusing, or has the community kind of embraced that aspect, saying this is kind of what we wanted?"
Yeah, I mean, we've gotten a lot of positive feedback.
Mm,
Our we haven't really fleshed out the brand too much. We're
okay.
trying to figure out ways. It's been primarily me
Mhm,
to date, to actually get that word out there, whether it be social media, and now with the podcast as well. So my co-host is helping on that front, as far as the podcast, and we're definitely promoting it on the podcast as well. But yeah, anyone that I've mentioned it to, and the people that are out there, they do like the concept of it, and it's just one centralized platform.
mhm,
And you mentioned a lot of dating apps. I don't think of I don't think of this as a niche dating app. I think of it as a niche sports app, because the
mhm,
sports community is a lot bigger than the online dating community by far. Uh, and that's the way I like to look at it. And it's it's just
mhm. Yeah.
it means a lot that just the fact that me and my co-host, we met at a Mets game through a friend, but we met at a Mets game a decade ago. We got to talking through sports. He ended up joining my fantasy football league for a decade. And then, I was talking to him before the season. We were getting ready for a fantasy football draft. He's like, "Oh, I'm dropping out this year. I'm going to take a year off." And then we got to talking about how I wanted to start a podcast, and he wanted to start a podcast. So I was like, "All right, let's just do it together." And
Mhm,
it's worked out great. I mean, we just finished episode 24 last night, and we're meeting a lot of people, a lot of great individuals, whether they're just your average Joe sports fans or people that work in the sports industry. And I know you're going to be gracing us with
mhm.
your
Couple weeks,
presence
yeah.
next month, and we're looking forward to that as well. But yeah, we're just meeting a lot of people, and in a time where people are supposed to be socially distancing, and we've been meeting numerous people, and connecting with numerous people. Yeah, maybe we're not face to face in the flesh, but we're diving deep into who these people are, as a person, as a sports fan, as just what's their story. You don't
Mhm,
have to be an athlete, you don't have to be a celebrity to have like a amazing story, whether it's around sports or something else. It's just, it's always fun to know what makes everyone tick, and why they are on the path that they're at.
And I guess what was you said you wanted to start one, you said your co-host wanted to start one. Was it more for the branding and awareness of the app? Was it kind of a 50-50 like, hey, it would help with the branding in the app, but I've also always just kind of wanted to talk to people and ask them questions. Like, where did the idea for hosting your own podcast come from?
Yeah, I mean, I would say a huge inspiration was Gary Vee.
Nice.
And if you would have asked me a year ago, or it told me a year ago I would host my own podcast, I would have called you crazy. And then, after getting the app off the ground, I just, I getting on social media to try and promote it. I'd see all these podcasts, promos stick, just floating around there. And sure enough, a couple of those would, go on and follow the page, and I'd engage with them, and ended up getting invited to a couple of podcasts. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, it'll get my name out there. I can talk about playing the field. I was completely green. I was complete rookie at it. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna be on a podcast. But whatever, I did it. Like Gary Vee says, like, you just gotta throw humility out, and you just gotta do it, because you just have to. And then so I did a couple, and then I did a couple more, and I'm like, it's great being a guest. And I love the fact that people can come on here and they can talk about their stories. And I'm like, I should just make my own too, because a lot of people out there want to tell their stories. And so yeah, it was a little bit of a mixture of both. I definitely wanted to get the brand name out there. Behind me you have, right now it's zoomed in a little bit, but there's Playing the Field logos all over it. Yeah, so you got a Playing the Field logo right there. And it's just so it is a little bit about brand awareness and keeping to the brand. But the whole point of it is, we're building a sports fan community, and we are bringing on sports fans to show everybody that no matter what, like, there's something that you can relate to with the
Mhm.
person that's on. There's going to be a story that you have that's the same as the other person's story. Whether it was a game that you went to, whether it was, a relationship that you formed because of sports, whether it was romantic, platonic, maybe it was growing closer to your father, your mother, your brother, your sister, your cousin. you know those those stories are universal. Like, there's something that everyone can relate to, and that just brings back and reinforces the point of community. And honestly, so it really did start as more of a brand awareness, more of a community, but now it's just fun.
Mhm.
It's really a lot of fun. We're talking to great people. We're meeting great people. We're talking about sports. It doesn't feel like work at all, because we're just talking about sports, and we're just talking to people. It's not doesn't feel like it's an interview.
Mhm.
When we talk to guests, like, just like right now, it doesn't feel like I'm being interviewed. I'm just talking.
Yep.
And and that's really, and we love the fact that our guests leave, and they send a text message or an email, like, immediately, that after they get off, like, I had such a great time. Because we sit there and we laugh, and sometimes we cry, unfortunately, depending on who we have on. But yeah, it's just been a lot of fun. And we just gained our first sponsor, which we're gonna,
Congratulations.
yeah, I appreciate it. And it's all thanks to the people that are sitting there and watching it, and showing it some love. And we're having a lot of fun, and can't wait for it to get even bigger.
I love it, man. Yeah, I mean, it's just such a fun process just getting to talk to people, and right, like, I've always been a huge fan of conversations. Grew up in a Italian household, so Sunday nights going to grandma and grandpa's, hearing the same story over and over again. I've always liked to just talk to people, have conversations about some of the stuff, because my favorite thing in the world is hearing somebody who's extremely passionate about something, whether I know what the hell they're talking about or not. It's just always so fun to see and hear and kind of feel that energy that comes from somebody else because they love something so much. Whether I
Mhm.
love it or not, it's still awesome to enjoy. And that's why I love having this show. Same thing,
Yeah.
just you get to talk to people and have those conversations. And so with the Fan Experience podcast, I do want to hop back to the app in a second here, but
Yeah.
what are some of those stories that you've heard and some of the stories that you've been able to have the opportunity to help tell other people and allow them to hear kind of what's going on in this community, but more importantly, as you said, the emotions that then come with sports along the way.
Yeah, I mean, we have all walks of life. I mean, we had somebody on last week that singer songwriter, and he ended up performing, or his rendition of the national anthem played before the Heat's game this past Sunday,
Wow.
and he had an impeccable winning record whenever he would perform at a Heat's game, and the Heat actually won that
Yep.
game. That was the
Mhm.
only game that they won, but
So far.
so so that was nice. Somebody proposed to their girlfriend at Fenway Park. So great moments like that. There's also moments where people grew as a person, whether it was learning perseverance, learning not quitting when it came to it getting too hard when they were playing little league or high school ball or college ball, and then really pushing forward, and then ended up not being an athlete but using that same mindset to push themselves forward in the business realm. And those are the stories we love to hear. Whether it's sappy, hey, I
Mhm.
proposed to my girlfriend at Fenway Park, which is amazing. I mean, how many people get the opportunity to do that? Unless you're Jimmy Fallon in the movie
Yeah,
Fever.
right.
And obviously those perseverance stories, those the fact that like teamwork and building relationships with all these people because of sports, or because of ex
Mhm.
teammates and stuff like that, and the bond that they still hold when they played with them in college or high school, and they're still out there, and they're still going to each other's weddings 20 years later. And that camaraderie part is it's second to none.
Oh, I love that, man. And I think it is, again, just getting to hear those stories and you now having an opportunity to help tell them or at least ask the questions to get a deeper understanding of really what's going on and tying that back into sports, I think is, it's absolutely fantastic. And I love the idea behind it. And I'm very, very excited. I think it's November 9th, maybe about a month from today.
I think it's the I think it's the 10th,
Is it the
but
10th?
I
Okay.
could
So
be.
31
Yeah,
days or 30-ish days from now. So I'm
yeah,
very
because
grateful and excited.
election day is the third, and you're that next week. So
Perfect. Well,
the
I'm
Tuesday.
excited to be on. Very excited for that. So it should be fun. Hopping back to the app for a second. So as you said, you've kind of gone through some evolution. You changed a little bit of stuff, but again, it's still working. Talk to me about some of the successes that you guys have been able to see so far in the last few months with the app, whether that is, I mean, just pitching it to some investors or just seeing some people gain a little bit of experience with it and really see some of the positives with it. What have you seen on that end so far?
Yeah. So right now, I mean, with a community app and a dating app, it's a numbers game.
Hmm.
So we need to have a lot of users. Right now, the user count isn't where we want it to be, but at the same time, it's still very early on.
Yeah.
And I have a limited budget as far as marketing goes, so I haven't really pushed it out. It's really just been the organic marketing, the podcast marketing. We and it's also still the beta, so I don't,
Mhm.
I'm not really
Yeah.
pushing people out there to a buggy version. But we want people on there, as little as we can, as many as we can, and then they go on there, and the feedback's been positive. I mean, they like the way it's laid out. We are changing a few things, because right now it's streamlined for more of the dating side,
Mhm.
and we are adding in the features for more of the friendship angle, and all the profiles are in the shape and of a trading card. So it's got that
Mhm.
that baseball card, football card feel right off the bat. And that's really our special sauce, because when you think of sports, you that's what you think of.
Mhm.
I mean, let's just be real. And our app currency, which is going to get a little bit more fleshed out in the future. But we the currency is in the form of bubble gum, because
Very
with
cute. Love
baseball
it.
cards there's bubble gum, because gold coins and medals
Mhm.
and you know and stars. I just they've all been played out time and time again. So we wanted to try something different. Even tickets, like that's been played out as well.
Yeah.
So I wanted to try something that really resonated with sports fans. And when you buy a pack of, when you're going to get a pack of cards every day to scroll through, you're going to also get some gum. And then they'll also get some gum for using the app, referring
Mhm.
their friends, and things like that. And they can buy add-ons and use it for purchases in a store we hope to have with merchandise, whether it's playing the field merchandise or official merchandise with
Mhm.
other retailers and stuff like that. As far as tickets too, because really we want to connect them, and we want them to go to games together. I mean, that's really the goal.
I
You
love it.
you already know that they're a sports fan. You're both a fan of the Mets. You're both a fan of the Yankees. You're gonna go out there and you're gonna go to a Yankee game, and we're gonna help you out in that process. Because my personal feeling is, yeah, that there's been so many things with as far as dating. The dangers of online dating and the catfishing.
Mhm.
But let's be real, like if you're gonna online date and say, okay, I'm gonna meet up with this person and we're gonna Netflix and chill, that right there screams red flag. But if we're gonna go to a Yankee game or a Mets game, you're gonna be surrounded by thousands of people and a whole bunch of security,
Mhm.
and that opportunity for catfishing, I feel, is you know it,
Yeah. Why would
it's
somebody yeah, why would you spend the money on a Yankees ticket to be a fake person? Like, that doesn't even make sense. So, no, I
it,
think that's a pretty good point.
Exactly, and you're just going to be around thousands of people and a whole bunch of security, so that danger aspect
Mhm.
is a lot less.
Yeah, and with with that, as you said, it's a numbers game. You're trying to get a lot of people on, but as you said before, you took advantage of a shitty situation in what is this quarantine, which is the pandemic. What have you seen in terms of more people added to the website with the pandemic? Obviously, you've been able to code significantly more, so hopefully, everything looks a little nicer. As you said, you're looking to upgrade the aesthetic a little bit. But in terms of the pandemic and understanding dating apps, a lot of it had to like pivot to virtual, and now it's weird kind of meeting up with people. What have you seen in terms of that, the last 6 to 8 months, outside of the extra work you've been able to put in, but kind of the response from the community and just from people in general about the app, understanding, hey, we're not going to sporting events really unless you're down south for a little while longer. Have you seen some positives or some negatives, I guess, in terms of that?
Well, our original plan to market was to go out there to where our market is,
Hmm.
go out to sports games, and I'm pretty much introduce everybody
Hmm.
to it there. I mean, we know that that's where the sports fans go, and where they congregate, whether it's tailgate parties, whether it's just at a sports bar, and that whole aspect of things is just on hold right now. So we're taking it, it's a little bit of a silver lining right now,
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
sports, we're not even allowed to have fans in many stadiums. So it's giving us the opportunity to sit there and build and polish the product, and then go even harder when it comes to things opening back up.
Hmm.
And that's really the goal, because people are going to want to go back to games, and they're going to want to go back to games together. And if they can sit there and connect with people, whether it's at the game, we also want to down the road even have a way for people to connect while they're at the game, and not just on their phone. Like, they will do it through the app, but to find out if there are other people that are at the game with them.
Hmm.
And because you meet people at the game, or you see people at the game, and like, oh, but you don't know anything else about them. Like,
Yeah.
they're having a great time. Oh, they're a huge fan, but I don't know their name. I don't know anything about them. But just like a couple of other dating apps, we pass a person in the street. There's a dating app for that.
Hmm.
Um, but so it's kind of like a hybrid with that one as well. But just with the community and the dating aspect.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think, hey, you're a Mets fan. You're my friend, right? Like we can go right from there. I don't need to know your name. We can be good friends just because rooting for Degrom to win his third Cy Young doesn't look like it's gonna happen, but maybe next year.
No, no,
Maybe next year. Maybe
definitely.
next year. But Michael, this has been awesome, man. Where can everybody find out more information on you on the app and get accustomed to it a little bit?
So yeah, you can find a little bit more information at playthefieldnow.com. That will have the link to our web app, which is at playthefielddating.com, and also links to our podcast, the Fan Experience Podcast. We are live every Tuesday and Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. We stream to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter at the moment. We also upload all of our shows to Apple, Spotify, the usual characters as far as the podcast platforms. And yeah, we're more than happy to accept applications to come on as a guest for that. And right now, if everybody signs up in the beta version, you will get more perks when the full version comes out, and some free goodies on that, and also help you out with trying to get you guys into the games when regular sports resumes.
Yes.
But hopefully that's sooner rather than later. But we got to stay safe at this current time that we're in. But it'll all get back to normal soon.
One of these days, man. One of these
One of
days.
these days. Yeah.
Michael Katos, GM of Playing the Field. Love that, by the way. I think that's pretty cool. And host of the Fan Experience. Really appreciate your time today, man.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Mike. And it was a pleasure. And looking forward to having you on ours next
Can't
month.
wait. Appreciate it, brother.
All right.